Okay, index number. Actually, index number is a statistical tool. Okay, this is nothing but a statistical tool which is used to measure the changes in the value of money. You'll know that the value of money keeps changing, right? And how do you measure that value? The value of money does not remain same, right? For a long time. It keeps changing with time. So, and how do you measure the value? It is measured through this tool called index number, right? Yeah, one more thing. Value of money is, you should know that it is inversely proportional to price. Value of money is, I've been telling this, ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಹಾಗೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಮೋಡಿಟಿದು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿಬಿಟ್ರೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. If the price of money is increasing, then the value of the money will decrease. So there is an inverse relationship, right? Is it clear? Okay, we shall look a proper definition here, which is given. The value of money does not remain constant over a time, right? It does not remain constant. It keeps changing, as I've told you. It rises or falls and is inversely related to the changes in the price level. So it either rise or fall, and it is inversely related to changes in price level. It does not remain constant over time. Yeah, so this time word is very important in economics. Any definition you are writing, you should not miss out this time. You know, everything happens in a given period of time, right? Once that time is lost, it loses its value. So time is again very important. This thing you should always keep a note on, and always do mention this point whenever you're writing in definition time, right? So a rise in price level means a fall in value of money. So it's inversely related, right? If the price is rising, then the value will fall. And a fall in price level, vice versa, right? Means a rise in value of money. Thus, changes in value of money are reflected by changes in the general level of prices over a period of time. See, this period of time is very important. Anything you see, any definition in economics, they are always over a period of time, within the time limit, right? The time period is very important. Changes in general level of prices can be measured using a statistical tool known as index number. So this is basically a statistical tool or device which helps in measuring the changes in general level of prices. We can see how the prices are changing with the help of this tool called index number. So index number is a technique of measuring changes in variable or group of variables with respect to time, geographical location, or other characteristics. There can be various types of index number, but in the present context, we are concerned with price index numbers. So here we'll be basically discussing about price index number, which measures changes in general price level over a period of time. So you must know there are two types of index numbers. One is simple index and the other one is, so there are two types of index numbers. So under types, we see that we have two types. So one is simple The other one is weighted average. So under simple, we just measure the simple average. We just try to find out the simple average of the commodities which we are taking into consideration while calculating index number. Whereas under weighted index number, we take the weighted average, right? Weighted average. So what do you mean by weighted average? It is actually the weightage given to each commodity which we are using while calculating the index number. So that is called as weighted average, right? So these two types you need to keep into your mind. Now we shall look at the steps. Yeah, steps we'll have to look at. So as I've told you, the type of question you've been getting from this topic is define index number and explain the steps in construction of index numbers and their difficulties. So they are basically asking you the definition and then the steps which are involved in calculating this index number and what are the difficulties one faces while calculating this index number, right? So we'll look at, we've seen so far the meaning and the definition of it. Now we'll look at the steps, right? Yeah, here are the steps. So steps of problems in construction of price index numbers. The construction of price index numbers involves the following steps. So just quickly have the glance over these steps and then we'll discuss each one of them in detail, right? So the first step will be selection of base year, right? I'll tell you all what is that in depth later. We'll just quickly have a glance over the steps involved. So the second one is selection of commodities. What are the commodities we are taking into consideration, right? The third step is collection of prices, and the fourth will be selection of averages. Which average we just discussed, right? Simple and weighted average. So which average we're going to take into consideration, that also matters. Then the selection of weights, purpose of index numbers. So this can be another difficulty or the steps. Then the selection of method, which method are we taking into consideration? So the methods I've told you, simple and weighted index number, two types of methods of computing index number. So we have two methods. So which one we are going into take? Which one we are going to take into consideration? That also matters. Yeah, that's it. So overall, we have 7 steps. We'll look at each one of them in depth. So any doubts so far? If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay, so we'll look at this first step. First step, which is used in construction of index numbers, that is the selection of base year. How do you select a base year? What is base year? Base year is basically a year which is a normal year, which is a normal year in economy. Normal year means what? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by normal year? Is this year, can this year be taken into consideration? I mean, can this year be taken as a base year, 2020? What is a normal year? Yes, do participate. What is normal year? What do you understand by normal year? And can this 2020 be a normal year in economy? So normal year means there should not be any disturbance in economy. There should not be any disasters, no famine, right? No wars. Here you can see. Yeah, there shouldn't be any wars or famines or floods or political instabilities, right? If there's any such kind of situation in an economy, in a country, then that year in particular cannot be taken as a base year, right? For example, this year 2020 cannot be taken as base year in economy at all, because here we are going through a crisis here. In 2020 we are facing this crisis of COVID-19, right? So this is a disaster, right? What is it? This is also one type of disaster. So this year can never be taken as base year. This you must remember. So base year is always taken into consideration to find out how the prices are changing in economy with respect to this base year. How will it, for example, supposing we are taking a 2009, yeah, we had a very good time in 2009 time, right? So if we take 2009 as a base year, then we'll see how the prices are changing in 2020 with respect to 2009. So 2009 will be our base year, right? This will be used for comparing the price change. How are they changing in 2020 with respect to 2009, right? This is basically the purpose of base year. And how do you choose a base year? You choose a base year, the year which is normal year in economy, right? That means there shouldn't be any disaster or famine or flood like this, right? Should be very normal and a good year wherein all the economic activities are doing really good. That year can be chosen as a base year, right? Okay, we'll just have a glance over this. The first step or the problem in preparing the index number is the selection of base year. The base year is defined as that year with reference to which the price changes in other years are compared and expressed as percentage. The base year should be a normal year, right? These things you should remember, that it should be a normal year, and the base year is defined as that year with reference to which the price changes in other years as compared years are compared and expressed as percentages, right? So this is one thing. Yeah, in other words, it should be free from abnormal conditions like wars, famines, floods, political instabilities. Base year can be selected in two ways: through fixed base methods, in which the base year remains fixed, right? The other one is through chain based methods, in which the base year goes on changing. So there are two ways. One is fixed base method, the other one is chain based method. Here, the base year will remain fixed, whereas under chain based method, the base year will change. It keeps changing, right? For example, 1980, the base year be 1979. For 1979, it'll be 1978 and so on, right? Selection of commodities. Yeah, another important thing. So what are the commodities we are taking into consideration? That also matters a lot, right? While calculating index number. Yeah. Are you all aware of this? When I talk about these commodities, I remember this CPI and WPI. Idendranu. CPI Endranu. We all go through news. Have you ever seen these words, these abbreviations in newspapers or anywhere in news channel and all? CPI, WPI. Can anyone tell me where are these abbreviations discussed? So you must all have heard about CPI and WPI whenever we discuss about inflation in a country, right? Especially in India. Whenever we're talking about inflation, we discuss about this CPI and WPI. So actually, inflation rate is decided in India with respect to the CPI. CPI is Consumer Price Index. So this is again a index number which helps us know the changes in the prices. CPI. WPI is Wholesale Price Index number. This is wholesale and this is retail actually. Consumer Price Index number. It will give you the changes in prices in retail. Whereas here, about wholesale sector, how the prices are changing. Okay. Okay, we'll come back to the selection of commodities. The second problem in construction of index number is the selection of commodities. Since all commodities cannot be included, only representative commodities should be selected, keeping in view the purpose and type of index number. So you should all remember that all the commodities cannot be included. All the commodities, whichever is available, or all the commodities in the economy cannot be included in this index number. So you should be very selective, right? Only the and you need to select only the representative commodity. You need to select only those commodities which matters to you, right? So under CPI, you can see food and fuel prices are included. Food and fuel are included. But whereas under this WPI, food and fuel are not included, right? So this is how you can see. And you have another index number, that is industrial index number. So there are various index numbers like this, right? So in each index numbers, they only take some commodities, some representative commodities which matters to them, right? And not all the commodities are included. This thing you need to keep it in your mind. Okay, in selecting items, the following points are to be kept in mind. So what are the points you need to keep in your mind? The item should be representative of taste, habits, and customs of people. So the items which you are taking into consideration should be a representative of taste, habits, and customs. Right? Item should be recognizable. An item should be stable in quality over two different periods and places. So the item which you're selecting should be stable in quality. This is another point you need to keep in mind. The other point will be the economic and social importance of various items should be considered. So you need to also consider the economic and social importance of it, right? The item should be fairly large in number. So the quantity of the item which you're using should be large in number. This is another point you need to keep into mind. All those varieties of commodities which are in common use and are stable in character should be included. So all those commodities which are in common use and stable should be taken into consideration. So any doubts so far? Yes, feel free to ask any doubts if you have. Okay, nothing. We'll move to next point, collection of prices. Now we are into collection of prices next. So after selecting commodities, the next problem is regarding the collection of prices. Now, under this, from where the prices to be collected, this is one question, right? This is one problem. Whether to choose wholesale price or a retail price, this is another problem. Whenever you're going for constructing any index number, so these are the questions which arises. right? Whether you should choose a wholesale price or a retail price, where the prices you need to where the prices to be collected, whether to include taxes and prices or not. Should we include the tax or not? This is another question which comes into your mind, right? While collecting prices, the following points are to be noted. So you need to keep some points regarding collecting prices when you are collecting prices. So far here, okay, here, collection of prices. So these are basically the problems. So you can see in your question, they've asked you, what are the difficulties? So this will be your difficulties, and these are your steps. Under this step, these are the points, right? This is the explanation of the step of collecting price. So what are these points you need to keep in your mind while collecting prices? Prices are to be collected from those places where a particular commodity is traded in large quantities. So prices are to be collected from those places where a particular commodity is traded in large quantity. You need to see that the commodity which you're taking into consideration should be traded in large quantity. Right? Published information regarding the prices should also be utilized. The information which is published regarding the prices, that has to be also utilized. In selecting individuals and institutions who would supply price quotation, care should be taken that they are not biased. Okay, one thing you should be aware of, a general fault, error which occurs in any research or anywhere you go, that is biasness, right? You need to be careful that it should not be biased, right? Selection of wholesale or retail prices depends upon the type of index number to be prepared. So the type of index number which you need to prepare, that will depend on, I mean, that should be decided according to the retail or wholesale prices. Wholesale prices are used in construction of general price index. So where is wholesale price index price is used in construction of general price index, whereas retail prices are used in construction of cost of living index number. So you should be aware of this. Wholesale price, general price index. Retail price is used when you're going for construction of cost of living index number. I've told you this. Again, you should remember this. WPI, CPI, consumer price index. Here, CPI will give you what? Cost of living index number. And that's why you include food and fuel in this. Prices of food and fuel. It matters to you, right? It matters to the cost of living. And this is why this is basically taken into consideration while we are deciding about inflation rate. Whenever we talk about inflation, it is always with respect to CPI, because this is what matters to common people, right? This is what makes changes, make difference in common people's life, right? CPI, cost of living. How is their cost of living? Whether the cost of vegetable, ತರಕಾರಿ prices ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಪ್ರೈಸಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ಅದೇ ತಾನೇ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಾಮನ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ಗೆ. It's not the wholesale price, right? So they are least worried about wholesale price. What they're worried is about retail price. That is, how are their prices of food varies? How is their prices of fuel varying? This is what matters to common people, and that's why CPI is taken into consideration while calculating inflation. Right. The next point you need to keep in mind is prices collected from various places should be averaged. All the prices which you're collecting from various places should be averaged. You need to find out a average of it. What is average? Basically a sum of all the commodities, say X, by the number of commodities, right? This is a simple average. Weighted averages, you calculate it with regarding to how much weight each quantity is given, like sum of x1 and weight of x1, weight of that one quantity, or I you can say, how much weightage you're giving to this I quantity accordingly, and which quantity how you're using, I mean the number of that quantity. Both these should be multiplied and this will together give you a weighted average. So this is like little complicated than the simple average. Anyways, you don't have to worry much about this. They will never give you any numericals to be solved on this. You just need to be aware of little like steps. What are the steps involved in it? You should know just this thing in theory. There will not be any practical problems on this, right? Okay. The next step in construction is selection of averages. Now, how do you select an average? Since the index numbers are a specialized average, the fourth problem is to choose a suitable average. The problem is, how do you choose a suitable average? Theoretically, GM, that is geometric mean, is the best for this purpose. But in practice, arithmetic mean is used because it is easier to follow. So actually, GM. GM is always a better way of finding any average. This will give you more accurate result. But we always see that AM, that is arithmetic mean, is used to find out any averages in economics. This is because it is more easier, right? This is more easier to calculate than this, and that's why we see that always anywhere you go, you see that arithmetic mean is used, not geometric mean. You can see this in even in you know where can you see this? Physical quality of life index, all those yeah, in development and all. This thing you will learn in I mean your next year, that is third sem development. When you try to find out the development of a country, you need to find out the value of some things like how is the life of people in that country and all. For that you find out this physical quantity of life index and life index. Here you see that AM is used for calculating all these values and not GM, and this is the reason you get little error in while calculating these values. You don't get accurate value here. Okay, the next step is selection of weights. Now, how do you select a weight? And this is your next step, selection of weights. Generally, all commodities included in construction of index numbers are not of equal importance. So you must remember this, that all the commodities which you're using in constructing index numbers are of not equal importance. All are not of equal importance. For example, you may be using in CPI, Consumer Price Index. So you're using food, fuel, right? Food, fuel. So you must remember that food is more important to us, right, than the fuel. For common people, food is more important. So we will assign more weightage to this. rather than fuel. So the weightage given to this commodity called food will be more than the weightage given to fuel. Right? Therefore, if the index numbers are to be representative, proper weights should be assigned to commodities according to their relative importance. So we assign the weightage to it according to their relative importance. For example, the prices of books. Yeah, here you can see an example. Prices of books will be given more weightage while preparing the cost of living index for teachers. When you're calculating the cost of living index for teachers, you assign more weightage to books than while preparing cost of living index for workers. So for workers, the books does not matter, right? Labor's books matter ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು. But ಅದೇ teachers books andre this is one of the most important commodity, right? For teachers, books are most important, but for laborers, workers, the books are not of that much importance. Therefore, the importance varies, you can see. Weight should be unbiased and be rationally and not abruptly selected. So you need to be very rational while assigning the weightage, right? It should not be biased. So the next step is purpose of index number. The most important consideration is the, in the construction of index number is the objective of index number. So what is the purpose? What is the objective of index number? This is another important step in construction of index number. So what is the objective? I've told you according to the objective, we have different index numbers like CPI, WPI again. We have industrial price index. So there are various price indexes like this according to their objectives. So all other problems or steps are to be viewed in the light of the purpose for which a particular index number is to be prepared. Since different index numbers are prepared with specific purposes and no single index number is all-purpose index number, it is important to be clear about the purpose of index number before its construction. So we need to be very clear about the purpose, right? Now the next step is selection of method. How do you select a method? And which method do you select? This is another important step. So the selection of suitable method for construction of index number is the final step. And this is going to be your final step. This you must remember. So overall you have 7 steps. 7 steps for constructing a index number. So which method do you select? So there are 2 methods of computing index number. Among these 2 methods, you need to select one. One will be simple index number, the other one will be weighted index number. Simple index number again can be constructed either by simple aggregate method or by simple average of price relative method. So I told you it is a simple aggregate method. Right? Simple average. Similarly, under weighted index number can be constructed either by weighted aggregate method, that is weighted average of price relative method. The choice of method depends upon the availability of data, degree of accuracy required, and the purpose of the study. So it's important. The choice depends on availability of data, if the data is available or not, right? Degree of accuracy required, how much degree of accuracy you require, and the purpose of the study. What is the purpose of the study? All these things you need to keep in your mind while selecting a method for constructing a index number. I think that's it. So we're done. Any doubts so far? So we're done with the important part required for this topic. That is the definition we've seen, and we've seen the steps in construction of index number and also their difficulties, right? If you have any doubts, otherwise we'll just quickly revise all these things. Yes, any doubts? Okay, we'll just quickly have a glance over whatever we've studied. Yeah. Index number. This is a very important topic. You should not miss out on this topic, okay? Read it well. Okay, we saw the meaning of it. We saw how the value of money changes with the prices of money, right? And it all happens over a period of time. Period of time is very important. Then here are the steps or the problems in construction of index number. So the first step is selection of base year, which year you selected as a base year, right? It should be a normal year. The second one is selection of commodities, which are the commodities you used for construction, and the commodities which you are selecting should be representative commodities. Those should be recognized commodities according to your need, right? According to taste, habits, and customs of people. Those should be recognizable and stable in quality, right? Large number. All these things you need to keep in mind. The third step will be collection of prices, right? So how do you collect the prices? From where the price is to be collected, and whether you should go for wholesale price or retail price. This is another question. And whether should you include the taxes or not. So what are the steps you need to keep in your mind while collecting the prices? That the commodity is traded in, whatever prices you're taking of any commodity, that commodity should be traded in large quantities. The information published of the prices should be utilized, and it should not be biased, whatever information you're getting. And how do you select a wholesale or a retail price? It depends on the purpose. Like wholesale price is selected for finding out general price index, whereas retail price is selected for finding out cost of living index number. Right? Then the next step is selection of averages, whether it should be a simple average or a weighted average, right? Whether you should go for geometrical mean or arithmetic mean. We usually go with arithmetic mean, right? Because it is a simple one. Then the next step is selection of weights. Which weight, I mean, how do you assign weight to different commodities? It is according to their relative importance in a index number, right? Which commodity matters to us more will be assigned more weightage, right? And the lesser one, a lesser weightage. Then we also